What's goody, everyone? I thought I would be whiter out here. I thought I had better lighting. It's kind of dark. It's fine. I'm shooting in my backyard. Like, why is this not great?
Yeah, and I only still see your your face.
You don't see your face?
I don't see my face now.
Well, if you go to live, your face should be there. Because Imre just said you both look great.
Hey, I'll take it.
Oh yeah, so we're both live streaming. Yeah, we're both on. If you see in the Facebook group or the whatchamacallit YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're on
Nice.
both, fam. So hopefully, yeah, this is. This is this. Welcome back, everyone. You wanted a weekly live stream, so here you go. I think last week we wore sunglasses, and I was recovering from drinking brain, and then this week I was just like, whatever. We're outside.
Let's switch it up. Let's switch it up.
My wife
Yeah.
is my wife is sick, so I was just doing this outside.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's on me. I was sick and then got her sick. It's the worst.
It's the worst.
Yeah,
Well, that's how it happens.
exactly. So it's all a big pity party over here. How's it going over there?
Uh, you know, kids running around. Actually, they all went to go play at like the playground, so it's actually kind of quiet, which is kind of nice. No
Ooh.
stompage on the ceiling, which is refreshing every once in a while.
No one taking up your bandwidth on the router. No Fortnite poaching going on here.
Absolutely. It's Fortnite and Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, Minecraft's bumping.
Dude. Mr. Beast and his Minecraft channels are just killing it, dude. Killing it.
Good for him. Oh, and we're killing it too, though. We got people we got people commenting as we're easing
Yeah.
into this. This is
Easing it.
got John
Easing it.
Mondragon and Imre. I cracked myself up. Keto Carol, Mookie G.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for hanging out,
Let's
man.
go, baby.
We appreciate y'all for showing up every week despite us not promoting it. That just means the world to us.
Mm-hmm. Facts. Big facts.
So what we started doing here was somewhat of a weekly Q&A, and I posted in a poll in our Facebook group getting questions if anyone watching has questions. But what question I have is for Mr. Yoshi So. I don't know if anyone is subscribed to the World Series of Comedy email, but I opened up their Atlanta one, and Mr. Yoshi So was front and center. His face was the talk of the town, the belle of the ball, if you
Yeah,
will.
hey, we trying to get it.
I want to pull it up for the people that watch on our YouTube channel, which if you guys are listening to the podcast, then you're missing out on the live stream every single Tuesday on our YouTube channel and in our Facebook group. We are doing a live Q&A, so come on and hang out with us next Tuesday. I know you're listening on the podcast now, but you never know what's going to happen.
You never know.
I'm
But
sitting
yeah,
out in my
man,
backyard.
I just did the contest in San Diego at a very cool club. Two cool clubs out there. I didn't do the Friday show, but there's two clubs that we did it at San Diego Mic Drop, which is cool spot in San
Yeah.
Diego. And then the other one is the stand up. I want to say it's just called. God, why am I forgetting the name? It's in Bellflower. I know it sounds weird, but it might just be like stand up comedy club. Like it's such a generic like name.
That's the name of it?
Yeah. Hold
Hilarious.
on. I don't want to do it any disservice because they were super good people. The Stand Up Comedy Club. That's the name of it. I was like, I think it's something different, but no, it is just straight up the Stand Up Comedy Club.
Well, all right then.
Yeah.
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
interesting about the mic drop is the guy that won while you were out there in California, Matt Derndak.
Yeah,
Weird
yeah.
is how
He
you pronounce
won
his last name.
the first year. Yeah, yeah.
We worked together pre-pandemic at the Drop, which is in Indiana. It's a comedy club called The Drop. We worked together out there.
Yeah,
So it's cool to see things come full circle.
for sure. How was that show?
Oh, it was nice. I think they moved locations. I think they're in like a
Okay.
bigger place now as well. But it was a lot of fun. And while we're on the topic of World Series of Comedy, I actually met the booker of The Drop at a World Series of Comedy event.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just to
Full
shout out World
circle.
Series of Comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know we both
But
have
yeah,
done a lot with them. So how was your trip out there? Did you see any hot brethren? Tell us, because these kids are listening. Like, oh my gosh, he went comedy festival. He flew across
uh,
the country for a comedy festival. Like, what? Give us the deets,
yeah.
the
I mean, honestly,
tea.
it was good. I went there, stayed with a comedy friend of mine, who I met at World Series last year. So we became good friends, and then he came out here actually for Weston Comedy Festival. His name is Jim Gallagher. Very funny. And then when I got there, the show was really, really good. I didn't get to see the first night, so I didn't get there till like Thursday. So I actually I flew into LAX and then drove to San Diego. And then the first night of the show, it's just two separate lineups, 9 people a piece. This was the second round. And I think the biggest thing for me was truly just to like have a mindset of having fun. I know you and I talked just earlier about how sometimes some of these contests I get a little in my head about them and
Mm-hmm.
kind of psych myself out. But I think when I focus on having fun, the results don't matter, and I'm just happy with exactly what I did. So that's kind of really how it was. I did my show and I did my set. Very, very happy with it. Probably going to use it as a sort of it's a 7 minute, so I'm going to use that for future clips because I was super happy with it, and it was
Great.
mostly because I had a great time on stage, and like keeping that focus was more important than anything else. I didn't move on, but I was super excited about what I did on stage. I met Hot Breath Aaron Sampson. We were on the same show.
Oh,
He did
Aaron's great.
well. He did awesome. We talked a little bit afterwards, and we just had a good discussion just all around. And then a lot of the people I've seen before, I haven't met Matt before, but I've heard his name in other places. But it was just good to just like see. He's got a very different comedy style. Matt does, but
Mm-hmm.
also um, everybody else was a little different as well. So it was just good to see kind of like different styles of comedy. There's definitely like a style of New York comedian. There's definitely a style of like LA comic
Oh,
as well.
interesting. Yeah.
But like just, at the end of the day, it's about making people laugh. So I was super happy with it. And I would say, not to flex, but as soon as I got off stage, um, I exchanged cards with the uh, one of the managers there, and basically she was just like, "Hey, if you're ever in town, hit me up." So for me, that's a win. That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's just somebody to see it and be like, "Oh, you could really rock our stage." That's all that truly mattered to me. So for me, that's a win. Even though I didn't move on, just having that connection now is like golden for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's what World Series is best for, is like networking with other comics, and also networking. Like their like big intention is like connecting comedians with bookers. You know, like
For
that's what
sure.
they're all about.
Yeah.
So anytime I've done something World Series, I've always gotten booked from it. So it's definitely valuable.
Yeah. 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 No, so it was good, man. I mean, no complaints. And then the shows were good. And yeah, I'm doing another one in Louisville, Kentucky, about
Nice.
2 weeks, and then the Atlanta one in. I think I'm doing Louisville, and then I'm gonna do the one in Florida at Sarasota, and then I'm gonna do the Atlanta one, and those might be it for me.
Nice. Yeah, and
So
basically how theirs works, if people are wondering, each city is like a satellite, and then is it the winners of those go to
the
the
top,
finals in Vegas?
so the top three of any of the satellites automatically go into Vegas. And then if you don't make the top three, but you've got enough points throughout all the satellites, you also get an invite for the top 101, basically.
Gotcha. Very cool. And this
Yeah.
actually ties in um, to a question we had in our Facebook group where Danny Tran actually asked, how many years in comedy before you started submitting to festivals?
I was probably like 2.5, 3 years in, but I would say like don't use the years as a gauge. I, I would just say if you feel like you've got a comfortable 10 minutes. So here's the thing about all right, let me pull back. The World Series is feature work. You're basically guaranteed feature
Hmm.
work. And feature work is anywhere between 20 to 35 minutes. I would not submit unless you've got 35, 40 minutes of solid material that you believe you're comfortable with. Mainly because when you're doing the comedy and you go on to all the stages, the last final three of every um, satellite is basically a 25-minute set. So you got to push out a
Mm.
25-minute set. So if you move forward, you got to be able to do 25 at the satellite. So I would say be comfortable at a 40, 45. That way you're 25. That is like straight up, you know, A material. You can sort of hit that for that 25 minutes. That's sort of how I approached it. So when I did it, I was year three, year four-ish when I did my first one. Actually, I don't think I did it till year four. Uh, in terms of at least for the World Series, I didn't do till year four, but I've submitted to other festivals because the other festivals they don't need 25 minutes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
live festival, I think they only really want you to have like 10, maybe 15 minutes because you're really only doing that much time at their festival. So just look at what length of time that they want. And then, yeah, I would just start submitting if you're comfortable with your material for the amount of material that they want to sort of highlight at their show.
Yeah, that's a good point. And for people that just jumped in the live stream, I see Andrew in here and Heather and Jerry and Jessme. I see some people posting questions and Bob. The topic we're talking about, Danny Tran had asked when we started submitting to festivals. And for me, I don't even remember. And honestly, I don't really submit to that many festivals at all. And I feel like every time I see our comedy buddy Wellington, he's like, "You doing the festivals, man?" It's like, "You doing the festivals?" Like he would be good to come on here because he's great at that at those.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really just don't. I haven't really submitted to many, if any. To be honest, I've done stuff with World Series. I did some with Red Clay here in
Yeah.
Atlanta. One year I did like a podcast thing with them, and then never again. But that's fine. You know, I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. Not at all. I just feel bad for I just feel bad, for the people that almost, but then didn't type of vibe. I mean, yesterday's price is not today's price. Is basically what it comes down to. So that's really what it boils down to. But I'm not bitter, and I'm grateful. And so yeah. So those are really the only festival. But I know friends, and I know Yoshi's very active in festivals as well, and a little more extroverted. It is like a great opportunity to network and to
Yeah,
get quality stage time if it's a quality festival. There's so many festivals out there that if you have a question about one, if you post it in our Facebook group, you'd probably be able to get some feedback on, is this worth submitting to? What's this festival like? And kind of get a dialogue going because each one is totally different. Um,
yeah,
Submission process is different, acceptance rate is different. So each one's different. So I haven't really done that much with festivals, but I know people who haven't gotten a lot out of them. So I will say that.
yeah. I mean, I would say it's one of those things that Mookie just mentioned. Be prepared to get rejected a lot, which is a great point. I've
Mm,
submitted to a lot of festivals, get rejected a lot, but it's not like the rejections get you closer to the like. It's those are the no's that get you closer to the yeses.
mm-hmm.
The the stuff that I was submitting the first time probably wasn't great. If I look back on it now, probably was not like high material. And now that I'm submitting, I'm like, oh, this is fire stuff that I think will get in, but still, it could still be trash to them. You know what I mean? You never know what the festival goers, you never know who's sort of booking or whatever. But you hope that over time you learn sort of what they're looking for. Who was the kid that you interviewed? Andrew Frank. He
I
was on
met
the
him at
podcast.
World Series. I'm at the
Yeah,
Joke
Andrew.
Doctor World Series, so there's a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah,
yeah, and Andrew Frank is like a festival god. That dude
yeah.
did so many festivals and like lived off of festivals and lived off of like truly like mastering the art form of the festival.
Mm-hmm.
And that also parlayed him into more and more gigs. So he just figured out, oh, I've I don't want to say he figured out completely, but he knew kind of like I don't want to say the formula, but what got the festival bookers like itched. Like he was like, oh, this is what they like. I can do this. I can do this kind of material for
Yep.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so I've interviewed Andrew. And speaking of festivals, I have interviewed Andrew George, who runs
Mhm.
the Laughing Skull Festival. He gave a lot of good insight on festival submissions and just a point of view of a club booker in general. And
Yeah.
I've interviewed both co-founders of World Series of Comedy, Joe and Jason, both amazing dudes. I've interviewed them a few times.
Yeah.
Um,
And Ian talked about festivals as well.
yeah,
Ian is
yeah.
the booker at Laughing Skull. Yeah. 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 But I
So
mean,
those are some good resources for the podcast if anyone wants to go back and listen to more
yeah,
specifics.
festivals are they're not an absolute thing, but they do definitely get you exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even if you're not, don't get into a festival, you could still go to a festival. There's a lot of networking that can be done. I mean, we talk about this. A lot of the gigs that you're going to get do not come from bookers. They come from
Uh-huh.
other comedians who truly are like, "Oh, I messed with you. I think you're funny. You'd be great for my show that I'm running in this town." So just know that festivals also get you to connect on all those other cities that you might want to visit and you might want to do a show at.
Yes, and this comes with a disclaimer that this does not guarantee you will submit, get into a festival, and then meet the person that changes your life. You very well may submit to 50, get accepted to two of them, go and get nothing out of either beyond just stage time. So I
Yeah,
want to put that disclaimer out there as well that we're not guaranteeing anything,
for sure.
but from
But
our
just remember though,
experience, we've learned
But
that.
just remember those festivals. I would say always, this is just my little set of rules. Go to a festival that has bookers outside of the festival goers, where they are bringing bookers into the city. Laughing
Mm.
Skull brings bookers from JFL. They bring bookers from
Jimmy
South by
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, like they're bringing people in to
Mm-hmm.
watch and see talent. Same thing with Big Pine. Same thing with, I mean, World Series. Like a lot of the festivals, I would say, for me, my number one rule is who's going to be there to at least give me some level of exposure to say, oh, I liked what you did, or that wasn't great. Because the other thing is, those bookers actually do talk to you, and you can
Mm-hmm.
ask for feedback. They're not all going to give you feedback, but I would say 90% of them are willing to be like, oh, you know something? it was a little premature. They'll give you notes on what they liked versus what they didn't like, and
Yep.
that for me felt like super important overall. Like, oh, okay, this is where you think I am. And then the other thing is, bookers also like to see progress. They like to say, "Oh, I've seen you before. Now I've seen you like escalate. We'd love to have you for the festival."
Yeah, that's a good point. You got me thinking we need to start setting up some affiliate links with these
Yo,
festivals. We got
yo, yeah.
where the bread at, shouty? Where the bag at, fam? Anyway. So I had to go to White Boy Joe for a second. I did a fundraiser this weekend, and
I was going
like
to ask you, how was that?
I
You were the
went.
only one on the lineup.
I was the only white boy in the lineup. That's
Yeah.
that's my lane right there. That's my
Hmm.
safe spot. That's my
Yeah.
sweet spot. So I was in the zone. I
Yeah.
was in the pocket in there, and I told myself before the show that I'm not going to do race stuff. I was like, I'm evolving. I'm metamorphosizing. This
Metamorphosizing. You're phoenixing.
I'm
You know what I mean?
phoenixing. I'm the
Yeah.
caterpillar to butterfly. I'm
Yeah.
metamorphosizing, and
Yep.
it something came up that made me bring up race, and then I kind of went on this riff about how I'm trying to not do race stuff, and that was getting laughs. So I think I got new material out of it, but then I just leaned into the race stuff, and the laughter went from like 8 to 10. And then I went and I was like, see, y'all boxing me in here. See, how can I compete with those laughs? So it was all funny. Yeah,
You're
I'm
like, hey
trying.
guys, you guys want to hear about grape nuts real quick?
Yeah, I did my Zoom therapy bit, and it got like pretty much crickets. I did all this race stuff and then a Zoom therapy bit, and they were like, "What?" It was so funny, but it was a lot of it was a lot of fun, and I danced. I did the
It's all
gritty and the floss. Yeah, so we
nice.
shucked and jived, but it was really good. It was a lot of fun. I don't know why I can't remember why I brought that up now. My ADD took me to, was it booking it? I don't know.
No, no, no. You were just talking about
We're talking about
uh,
festivals.
yeah, you're talking about festival. You're talking about the affiliate links and getting the bag.
Oh, so
But
I
that
was
was
like bringing up the bag at the fundraiser. Oh,
yeah.
the fundraiser made me think of the bag, and I was like, oh, I remember getting paid for my time, and fairly. But it was booked by a hot brethren. Is I think maybe what
For
I was
sure.
getting at. So all y'all listening, y'all booking stuff, holla at us. We'll pull up.
For sure.
All
For
right.
sure.
Okay. Cool. Oh yeah, and Jessamy said I'm producing a show at Mic Drop on March 30th, and that we should come out there. Is it San Diego?
That mic drop, I think, might be in Phoenix because there's a mic drop in Phoenix.
Oh wow! Oh, and Jerry said Keto Carol's killing it in Phoenix because she's all over all the flyers, which is cool.
That's awesome.
We may be doing a country club that day anyway, though.
I think so. Yeah.
March 30th or 31st we are. So yeah, we won't be able to do it this time, but hey, definitely if the price is right.
Summer tour is what I'm thinking, Joel. Summer tour.
Yeah.
Nice little hot breath tour just across the country.
Just a
I
little light
am
work.
just a little light
You
work
just
just
want to get
across
away
the.
from your family. That's all you're trying to do. You're like, yo, let's go on a road trip forever. You're just trying to duck out.
I'm not saying you're lying, but I do want to spend some time with my family. But it'd just be fun just to like. I just think like the summer months is easier for me because then I don't have as much like
Kids,
response.
school, and all
Don't have
that. Yeah. I think we
school,
definitely put a
school.
run together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and I cracked myself up, asked the difference between a festival and a competition.
World Series is a competition and a festival. I mean, competitions really. I don't even know if there's really like competitions anymore in terms of festivals.
I
World Series
can't,
is probably the only one that's like a competition,
and I love
but
that
it's
about festivals, man. I loved that is the competition, but no
you
one's
say you
really
do or
doing
you
it.
don't.
I used to love that. I know Laughing Skull used to be a
Yeah,
contest.
Yeah, Laugh Skill used to be a contest, and I think like, I mean, very much for World Series. I don't want to say it's a guarantee, but the clubs pretty much will give you feature work if you win that club. That's
Mm-hmm.
part of the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
If you win the
whereas
contest.
if not only if you win the contest, but if you win like their satellite. So if you
Oh,
win
like
the
the
satellite,
satellite. Oh
you
yeah.
get a feature weekend basically. They're like, oh, okay, come out. Because I know somebody who didn't win the contest, but they won a feature weekend at one of the places, and then I saw them that weekend. I came in for like a guest spot, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is my feature weekend with this club that I won at for that weekend." So they honored it. I think it was a Chattanooga gig or something like that. But yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, very nice. Oh, very
Uh,
nice.
there's
Oh
also
man, my
like a
computer's warm.
there's a Facebook group as well. Not a Facebook group. There's like a list of all the um, comedy festivals as well. I think we might have shared it in Hot Breath a while
I
back,
think so.
but
I think we did too. Yeah. And then there's also like local competitions that like people will do like a one-off where you buy in and see if you win type deal. So that's more
yeah,
what I think when I hear like competition or contest is more of like a one-off thing. Sometimes clubs do, or sometimes just
yeah,
someone will put together where you buy in and then maybe win.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
always
I'd
good to
probably say
perform under pressure, and like I mean, like contests are good for that. Festivals are good for that.
for
Like getting out
sure.
of your comfort zone and really performing like in a different environment that you're not used to. Because you'll be surprised. I mean, as you get out of your scenes more, like you'll get on a stage you've never been on and be like, like, I feel like I'm starting over almost. Like, there's definitely a learning curve to being able to adapt to new environments very quickly. Because early when I was doing clubs, like it would take me at least a night to like acclimate and be like get my sea legs on the stage in front of that crowd. It's like there's a learning curve there that festivals and contests can really help with too.
Yeah, yeah. There was a question. John asked, "What are your thoughts on riffing on stuff the comic before you said?" That's a good question. I if there's something interesting that the comedian said, and I've got a joke for it, I definitely will use it before I go into my set. I would say you got to get in the habit where that is always hitting, and it's got to be super short so you're not taken away from your set, because if it doesn't hit and then now you've got to bring the audience back, it can really like make it hard for you to get them back. So I would say practice it, but like get good at like, I've always said the shorter it is the better. Like
Mm-hmm.
the shorter the hit, like it's like set up punch or just a punchline or you repeat something. I wouldn't go into long setup or long story. Like I'll see some hosts say things like, well, speaking of dust busters, here's a story about dust busting,
Yeah.
and that just sucks the energy out of the room based on the fact that the guy who just went last like had all this energy for his closer, and then but now you want to bring up a story. So that'd be the only thing I would say. Keep it tight and quick in terms of riffing on something that the comic said before. I know some comedians that's like their thing. They'll
Mm-hmm.
riff on something and go right into their set. um, it was a local comedian that does that really really well. Neil Reddy, masterful
Mm-hmm.
dude. Like I've never seen him not crush on saying something right before, and then as soon as it hits, he goes right into a set, and it does great. But yeah, I think it makes the audience believe that you are actively listening as a comic.
Yeah, and it can be good practice in terms of like riffing and kind of becoming more conversational on stage. You just don't want it to become a crutch.
Yeah,
And you don't want it to be like forced. If there's just something like at the tip of your tongue that you're like, oh, I gotta say this or want to say this, but don't make that your primary objective of the set is like, oh, let me listen to comic before so I can get my opener. Like, if it's organic, then go for it. But otherwise, don't try to just shoehorn it in just for the sake. And another thing is, like you mentioned with the host going long, I've seen comics reference like the comic says something and then the host goes up for a couple minutes and then the next comic goes up and references the other comic, but it was too much time gone. the
too
audience
much
already
time.
for the audience already
Yeah,
forgot what that comic said or whatever, so
yeah,
they
yeah,
tried to
yeah,
play off of it, and it was so. I mean,
yeah.
use it.
Yes,
You practice it, but don't use it as a crutch. I would say.
yeah. Great point. And only, I mean, this is going to take time, man. Only say it if you know it's going to do well. If you're like,
Oh, I was just about
this
to
is
say it's got to be
funny,
funny. Yeah.
it's got to be funny. If it's like, oh, this might be interesting, absolutely not. Say it to yourself first, or say it to somebody else. This is what I've done. I have done that at a show, and I'll ask another comedian, "Hey, do you think this will be funny if I say this?" And if they're like, "Oh, that's trash," I'm like, "All right, I'm not even going to do it."
Yeah, just if it's organic and funny,
Funny,
then give
funny.
it give it a test. I mean, all the riffing and stuff. I think when I initially started practicing riffing, it was in a bar in a strip mall next to a closed grocery store on
Stakes,
Tuesdays at ten
stakes are
o'clock.
high.
It was at a bar called Spuds where they sold big baked potatoes. That's all they sold. And so then there, we're in the middle of a dance floor. The disco ball's going. I went every week, and um, so I started riffing in there by just like I made fun of the light, and then like went into my material, and then I would like kind of get a little braver. I went made fun of the light, and then maybe the dance floor, and then went into material, and then maybe I made fun of the light, the dance floor, and the sign outside, and then went into material. And I kind of started to expand the riffing that way because it's all
Yeah,
super incremental, but
yeah,
it
yeah,
it it is a great way to flex, especially at a show like that. Those are good shows to get weird, rub walls, you know,
yeah.
really get into it. But like
Get
at a club or
in
something,
there.
you don't want to do that. But an open mic where you're in the middle of a dance floor and it's mainly comics, like man, that's open field running. Feel free to get weird with it, try things,
For sure.
and take
That's a good.
big swings in those rooms because the stakes are very low.
Yeah, that's such a good point and a smart way to think about it.
I'm getting roasted in the comments too. Carol said I look like my live stream is sponsored by Bass Pro Shops. But then on the other end, it's Akuma said, I'm taking a break from commenting on the PGA Tour. So I'm on both
Yes.
ends of the white elite spectrum right now. Even just how I said elite, it just like elite. It just like rolled off the tongue. Elite.
Yes.
Anyway, I did say at that fundraiser I was the diversity, equity, inclusion hire, which I thought was pretty funny. But what was
I'm sure.
funny, it was in a small town in Georgia, so the crowd
Yeah.
was actually mixed. So like there was actually like a good bit of white people and black people there. But the funny part is the whole lineup, the whole fundraiser was put together by black comedians. So these white people kind of showed up, and I don't know if they knew exactly. I mean, the flyer, it had all black comedians, and it was fine, and everyone laughed and had a good time. But I would love to have seen them as like, they were playing, Gorilla Zoe, or I was trying to think of his name. What's a gremlin? Oh, what's the rapper's
Um,
name? Kodak Black.
Superstars. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Kodak Black. There we go. But yeah.
Uh, yes.
Anyway, but speaking of which, I think Carol, despite roasting me, had a question. When to enter competitions, do all we can early in our career, even though we probably won't win, or wait until you think you're good enough to win and suffer soul crushing losses. Oh, so basically, do contests before you think you're ready or when you think you're ready.
I, I would say do them before you think you're ready because you got to get a little uncomfortable. And once you get some of those L's, I think you'll be very surprised that they don't start to hurt as much later on.
Yeah, I will say though, you only get one first impression as well. So I guess maybe it depends on the festival. I'm just saying if you go to a festival and the booker sees you as one way, that
Yeah.
may be how they see you forever, or at least for several years. So I think early on I avoided festivals because I didn't feel like I was ready, and then I didn't feel like they were worthy. I guess. No, I'm just kidding.
Mm.
I'm just kidding. Is oh, the humility.
You were a one hitter quitter. You're like, I don't think they really mess with the buys.
But she said local club competitions. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would say go for it. I mean, I think competitions are great to get out of your comfort zone and really like. It's so great to have accountability and something to work towards. You know,
Mm,
there was a contest here in Atlanta for a while, run by road comic Derek Tennant. So I think he's been on the road and busy, hasn't done it. But it was like 3 minutes. I think you
yeah,
submit. I think it was $30, but you won several hundred. And it was 3 minutes, but it was like it was a good exercise of like, okay, I gotta condense everything down. I gotta hit
yeah,
with my best 3 minutes. Like, so I would do it every time, and won some because just in case anyone was wondering, and I would still do it every time because it was a good exercise of like editing and performing under pressure, and it
yeah.
held me accountable to write. You know,
And to get the 3 minutes, like that's not easy.
yeah,
That's a good nice.
you got to squeeze out all the air on those jokes. So yeah, I
Yeah,
would say go.
that's
Yeah, I'd say go for it if you're proud of what you're doing. Say take a swing. You know.
yeah. And one another good thing, just a good practice. Uh, Before you start submitting to festivals, start recording your sets. So when you're
Oh
recording,
yeah.
first of all, I'll tell you this: do not record and submit an open mic set.
Mmm.
This is just good practice. An open mic set does not put you in the best light, especially if the open mic has nothing but comedians in it.
Mm-hmm.
The bookers want to see you at a showcase and they want to see real people laugh at your jokes. If you're testing material out, that's not what you want to submit. You want to submit your best version of yourself, your hot five, as they call it in the industry. So that's just a good practice to have. Try not to submit open mic material unless it's like an open mic that's got a showcase and you're like showcasing your stuff. But if possible, do not submit open mic
Yeah.
tapes.
Because that is also like we said with going to a competition. It's like your first impression may be that video, so it's a representation of you and your comedy. So yeah, definitely yeah.
Yeah.
Your booking tape and your submission tape. Yeah, don't do it on an iPhone that's vertical from 15 feet away that your friend is holding while they're like giggling or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
shaking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point though on the submission side. Yeah, the quality of your submission. Yeah, make it high quality.
High quality. Yep.
And I saw
Um,
Jerry had a question along the networking side. Was the Yoshi mentioned business cards? Is it still a good
yeah.
idea?
Oh,
Contact and
absolutely.
social media info on there.
I'd probably say the way that business cards are going, a lot of people, and I'll say I do this too, are just basically putting like their face. So this is my business card right here. It's just my
Mm-hmm.
face, my name, and then on the back some contact info, and then a QR code for them to reach me. And the QR code actually goes to an EPK that I actually did with the World Series. That's got like my images, my tape, a bio, and things like that. So that works for me, and I've gotten booked from that. I would say, yeah, business cards definitely, especially if you're going to a festival, even to connect with other comics. But yes, of course, I also get their IG. I follow them on Facebook, all the
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. But
Yeah.
definitely business cards, because I think that's the other thing is there's not a lot of. This is gonna sound like I don't know what the word is, ageist or whatever. There's not a lot of young people that own comedy clubs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
So it's still a very kind of old school group of owners who still mess with business cards.
Yeah, and yeah, that is a good point. I have business cards. A lot of times, people will ask you like after a show, do you like a fan or something? Maybe like, do you have a card or whatever? I will say, business card is great. It's something to have. I I can't I can't count on one hand how many times I've gotten someone's business card and then like did something with it besides throw it away. Besides it sitting around my office for a while, and then
For sure.
I throw it away. I haven't been like, oh, let me get your card. Okay, I'm gonna hit you up, and then me actually go and email them. Like maybe a handful of times I've done that,
Yeah.
What really does it is you get their info. Be like, oh, here's my business card, and let me go ahead and get your email, and I'll follow up with you. Because people, I mean, 8 times out of 10,
It,
9 times out of 10, they're not gonna follow up. They're not gonna think about it. But when you follow up, they're gonna be
yeah.
glad you did and be like, oh yeah, that's right, type deal. So business card's a cool professional kind of trinket to have. But if it's with someone that you want to like really like, it's like you're talking business or you're something you want to keep in contact with, then like get their email and you initiate the conversation.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yep. Next steps. Take it next level.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't want to be relying on anyone to remember X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. That's on you, baby.
Yeah, this turned into talking about festivals.
Yeah.
It's turned into a whole thing about talking about festivals, but they are important, and there are a lot of questions, and it's kind of an unknown world. Um, but yeah, it's knowing which ones to that are worth submitting to, and if you don't know, I'd say ask in our Facebook group, and they'll be able to help you out. But I think on the all, most festivals are in it for the right reason, in a
Yeah.
good place to
Yeah.
meet people and possibly meet
I'd probably
bookers
say
and
a
get
lot of
stage time.
bad festivals have been snuffed out, is the best way to describe it. People just have been like, nope, don't submit to that festival.
Yeah.
Um, and like the good ones have stayed, I would say. So yeah. I mean, and obviously tons of tons of bookers, and tons of like producers also do festivals. Do your due diligence, find somebody who's been to the festival before, um, and see what it's about before you submit.
Yeah, and this one was from Christopher Woolley in our Facebook group. He said, I'm always told not to throw a joke away, but how many times would you try it out on stage and it not work before throwing it away to look at later? How long would you take before looking back at old jokes to try and get a fresh perspective on it?
My magic number is three, but that's just me. Um,
Did we do this
three.
one last week?
We've done this question before. We've been asked this question before. My magic number is three, and I would say it's three, and I don't count it working. I don't count an open mic in terms of it working or not. I count showcases and places that I'm getting paid to do it as, does this joke work? But I've already worked it out at the open mic. If it doesn't hit at a showcase, even if I squeeze it in between like fire stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I'd be like, we're gonna shelve this till it's ready. Sometimes a joke got to go back in the oven. You know what I mean, and reheat
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? Just
exactly.
it's not ready to be eaten yet.
Yeah, big facts. Yeah, it's kind of personal preference on how many times you want to do it before putting it to the side. I wouldn't say throw away anything. I'd say, yeah, you just kind of shelf it to come back to it later. You could come back to it the next week, the next month, the next year, the next decade. Like it's kind of an organic thing based on your own
Hmm.
personal judgment of if you believe in the joke, then
Yeah.
keep hammering, but at a certain point the audience doesn't lie. And if you've been doing it for 6 months and it's never worked, it may just be time to shelf it and come back to it. And there's no like even like Christopher saying that reminds me of like, oh yeah, I'm writing new stuff. I should probably revisit old stuff I wrote and just see what's there. Because like early on, I have like notebooks of stuff that I probably wrote in and then just never looked at again. So that could be a good resource to find new material that Christopher just tapped me into there. So
Mhm.
interesting, because I know people will do that. I've never really revisited my stuff. I just kind of kept moving, and developing stuff that just worked in the chaos.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of personal preference there, Christopher. But when you come back to it with fresh eyes, you'll probably find fresh jokes for it. So
For
put it
sure.
to the side. Oh, and this one is this one gets personal here. JR asked, "How do you tell your parents You quit your high-paying job to pursue a career in comedy. I wonder if JR actually did this.
Yeah. Or is he thinking about it?
Yeah, because he said, "How do you tell your parents?" as if he already did. I wonder if he did. I hope he's still watching. I know he commented in the live stream.
Yeah.
God, bruh, I don't know on that. I mean, you're a parent, Yoshi. So, like, from a parent's point of view, how would you want
Yeah.
to hear something like that? But you're married, and you also like like left your job to pursue comedy. So,
So I would I
not to put
this
you
is
on
one of
blast
those
out
things.
there.
No. This is one of those
Okay.
things that I think that it's definitely personal preference. But I would say you should not quit your any job to pursue comedy unless comedy is just busy. Like where you're so busy at comedy that it's dipping into your time to where you can't focus on the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I would say is the time to quit a high paying gig to pursue comedy. But just remember, like, most comedians are working on weekends, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you're getting booked like that, where your weekends are just busy as hell, then yeah, maybe it is time to pursue comedy on a regular basis. On the other side of that, I'm not getting booked, and I still left my gig, but I left my gig mostly because over the years, I've built a nest egg where I can do that, and I'm okay sort of taking that risk. Also, I've got a supportive wife at the house that's like, was willing to be like, yeah, sure, go ahead and do this, and we'll see what happens. I don't have like a timeline of when I might need to rein it in, but we'll see. So this is just one of those situations where I think it's definitely personal preference, but I would say you quitting, just make sure, like, I don't know how to best say this as a parent. It would be that don't pursue life and make sure that your life is good before you go ahead and pursue a career in comedy.
Mm.
So you're doing stuff by which you're still like livable, then go do that. I know comedians that are have lived in their car. Well, you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. We know plenty of comics. AJ Wilkerson lived in his car. Um,
Dude, Andrew
Joe,
Frank, the guy who
and
we were like, he's the king of the
yeah,
festivals. I
yeah,
don't know if he still is, but when I interviewed him, he was
he's
living in
not.
his car.
Yeah, but he's not anymore,
But he
right?
was,
But
yeah. So
he
like,
was for sure, right?
that's a
So
lot of
like,
times what full time comedy looks like is like you're literally
that's
living in your car.
what, yeah, and you're trapped,
So,
and you're going to gigs and doing things
yep,
like that, right?
yep.
So I would say if your lifestyle can support it, then by all means, go ahead and pursue comedy full time. Uh, but there's no guarantee because you're at the beck and call of bookers. You're at the beck and call of other people sort of choosing you for these gigs. The other way to think about it is that now, if you've got like, the king of Atlanta comedy, who we call Joe Pettis, he left his gig and he was producing like 5, 10, maybe 15 shows. He was producing shows, still got a way to do his comedy, produce shows, and he left his gig to do comedy full time. Like,
Hmm.
just make sure that you're good from a life perspective. That's the best way to say it.
For sure. And I did what you did, and I set up a nest egg and then jumped in full time. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I was living lean too. I mean, Publix BOGO was my love language, and I am living in a studio apartment in the basement of a building in the hood of Atlanta. Like, like I'm living lean out here, saving up money so I can pursue comedy full time, and saved up a nest egg. And then I did like a exercise of like best case scenario, quitting my job full time. Worst case scenario, am I willing to live with the best and or the worst case scenario of this decision? And I was, and I jumped in that way. But yeah, I always recommend to people like, I mean, you do you, boo. like we always say here, like at the end of the day, you do you. We tell you based on our own professional experience. But like for me, another reason I didn't move to LA or New York and I built everything from Atlanta was like my friends that moved to LA and New York, you know, they're living in like 2 bedrooms with 4 dudes, like type deal. And I was like, I'm just, yeah, they got on late night and stuff and they're doing great now, but it's like, I'm not willing to do that for that essentially.
Standards. Yeah,
So it's
sometimes.
all personal preference on that end. So
Yeah,
if you want to jump in and like not really have much, the thing when comedy becomes your job, it's like any other job. Like you've got to work on, you know, you got to figure out how to get booked. You got to figure out branding and the
yeah,
marketing and all. Like, it's not like, oh, you quit and now comedy's just gonna create, you know, the yellow brick road for you. Nah, it's a
mm,
constant hustle, constant grind, every step of the way. Like I just interviewed Steve Byrne, 30 years in the game, saying it's still like it's a constant grind. Everyone's trying to figure it out. You're just going from like one thing to the other, just trying to do the best you can. So do it. I would say make it part time as long as you can until it is like you can't do your day job or boat and comedy, or comedy is paying as much as your day job. But once it
yeah,
becomes your job, it becomes more of an obligation in a lot of ways because now you're putting all the pressure on it to like, oh, I'm not just going out here to have bits and hang out for fun. Like this is my livelihood, so I really got to figure this out, and that can very easily suck out the fun of it if you're not careful.
yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, and I cracked
yeah.
myself up. Said Steve Harvey lived in his car as well, which he did. Yeah, I did a video about it on my Joel Byers YouTube channel. If anyone would like to go subscribe to that, because that should have been viral by now, and it has 1,000 views. So I don't know what happened there, but that's fine. Oh, but we're reaching the end of our hour here, Yoshi.
Are we? All right.
Yeah. I just realized my neighbors are probably looking at me like,
What
what
is
is
he
White Boy
doing?
Joel doing?
I feel like you got chickens back there. You got chickens back there?
No, but I would if I had more if I had more room, and like I definitely would. I've got my favorite yard art here. This is a
Mm,
mushroom. This is great for the podcast. They're like, "Oh yeah, we can see that." That's actually a hand-blown glass mushroom from the Tacoma Glass Museum. A father and son made those, and that
oh,
was
that's
like
dope.
the gift my wife and I got for each other for our trip to the Pacific Northwest. But once everything's blooming, I'll definitely do
Yeah.
more out here because we got a lot of hydrangeas and dafts and mascaris coming up, and
My God, you
a
sound
couple
like my
Linton
HOA.
roses. I had a line. Did I tell you? I had a line that when I did the Agape Church event that you hooked me up with about my wife is in like a garden club, and it's like and she loves antiques, and I was like, some people marry their mothers. I married my grandmother. Thought that
That's
was.
so good. That's solid. That's very funny.
Oh, what was that? Nice. But yeah.
That's fun.
So yeah, that was fun. Oh, and Keto Carol said organic gardening with Joel Byers. Dude, I would love to have a gardening show. I would love that.
That's hilarious. Did somebody have another question? I thought I saw
I think
something earlier.
Jess me posted something. Is that the one you were looking at?
Yeah.
Is it me, or is it
No.
normal to go completely blank after you've done your new stuff at an open mic, even though you have tons of jokes you could have said? Yes,
Mm,
that is normal.
yeah. Very, very normal.
For sure. That's a thing I think a lot of young comics do, and I can still be guilty of that, is like going into like a set, especially like an open mic set, and being like, well, I'm gonna try 6 new things. I'm gonna do some old stuff, but I'm gonna weave in 6. It's like pick your favorite new thing and just make
Yeah.
it your goal of the set to do that one thing. If you get to anything else, that's great. That's a cherry
Yeah.
on top. But like whenever you try too many things at once, you end up getting none of them done. So
None of
comedy is
yeah.
such an incremental set by set by set by set. like
Yep.
build and development. So like just do it one bit, one tag, one new joke at a time.
Facts.
Kaboom.
Big facts.
Fire, fire, fire.
Fire. Fire. 100. Fire. Airplane emoji. Fire.
Ooh, how exciting. So
Yeah.
let's land the plane. Uh
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in on March 15th, March 17th and 18th. I'm doing shows in Virginia and South Carolina. So if anyone listening to this has shows around that area that maybe I could do this the 16th or the 19th, I'd love to put
Nice.
together a nice run of shows there.
Nice.
Um,
Is it March? That's March?
yeah, that's March. Yeah, March 17th and 18th. And then so anywhere around those regions, I would go on either side of those dates that people are listening to the podcast. Just want to put that out there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Crack myself up, said Trey's in the upright position. Hilarious. But yeah. Yeah, we'll land the plane. But we appreciate y'all for hanging out. Goodness, great. I can't, man, when we start promoting this,
It's going to be a problem,
it's
son.
game over, fam. Because the people watching right now are like, oh, these are like the OGs. They're like they're the ones going to be shooting with us in the gym type of vibe, you know?
From the rooter to the tutor.
Oh, pause. Whoa, I don't know. Those are the feelings of Yoshi So. We should put a disclaimer there. Jody asked to South Carolina. I'm in Abbeville, South Carolina, at the Abbeville Opera House.
Nice.
And I will be performing as Y Boy Joel. So you guys can come see Y Boy Joel.
At the Opry House. That's awesome, dude.
But it pays.
Congrats.
So yeah, it'll be fun. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we did it. Is there anything else you want to say, Yoshi?
Nah, man. Just go work, guys. Comedy is about that work. Incremental changes. I was going to say, Jody mentioned something about just paying for comedy festivals. Give yourself a budget and just do like a couple of comedy festivals. You don't have to apply for every single comedy festival. I thought to myself when I was looking at festivals, hey, based on where I am, who are the people that are getting into this festival? Those are the festivals I'll apply to. And then when I saw people like, South by Southwest, like, uh, I've seen some big names. I'm like, I'm not applying to that. I'm nowhere near like where that is at the point. So at least for me, that's where I sort of gauged it, right? I saw people how many years they were in comedy, or the kind of stuff that they were doing. So I would say just incremental improvements is the key for comedy. But that's it, man. Yeah, I got some stuff coming up in March. I'm super excited about. Got shows coming. Got festivals coming. So yeah, it's gonna be a good month, man.
Yeah, we should get better about like if we're gonna be out and about out on the road, we should tell peeps because you never know who's listening that may want to come out or may want
For
to.
sure, I'm gonna be in Louisville, Kentucky, at I think it's Laugh Louisville.
Is
I
that
think is the
March?
name. Yeah, for World Series it's between the 15th and the 18th, and my show is on the 17th. Yeah, Louisville, Kentucky. Come holla at ya boy. It's the World Series of Comedy Festival. I'm on Friday if you guys are out there.
Very nice. Well, yeah, and we do this live stream every Tuesday answering your questions.
Every Tuesday.
So set your alarms every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We do this live stream on our YouTube channel and Facebook group. So please come hang out with us live.
Yay, yay. Yeah,
and
hit us
we'll
up
be back next Tuesday. Yeah.
Anything else? If you have any questions, I love answering questions. We do this.
Yep. We do love helping. That's why we do this every week for free. So those are our wives' words, not ours.
That's what we have to read right before we start the show.
Yeah.
The been approved by our wives.
Hilarious. So true.
This time I'm giving to you has been approved by my wife. She is okay with anything and everything that I say. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Well, all right, Hot Breathiverse. We will see y'all next Tuesday right here on
Bye.
Hot Breath.
Ah.
Bye,
Ah.
y'all.